What drives a person to deface a symbol of sacrifice in broad daylight? In the quiet town of Willow Creek, where the park's oak trees whispered stories of the past, a single act of vandalism shattered the community's peace. The memorial bench, dedicated to a fallen veteran, stood as a silent tribute until Karen Whitaker, a woman known for her sharp tongue and unyielding opinions, crossed a line that no one saw coming. The morning sun cast long shadows across the park, where joggers and dog walkers moved in their predictable rhythms. The bench, engraved with the name of Captain Daniel Foster, a local hero who died in Afghanistan, was a sacred spot. Its polished wood and brass plaque gleamed with care, tended by volunteers who honored his memory. Families would pause there, reading the inscription, "For Daniel, who gave all for us." Children left flowers. Veterans saluted in silence. It was untouchable, or so everyone thought. Karen, a 38-year-old real estate agent with a reputation for demanding perfection, had never been one for sentimentality. She strutted through the park that Saturday, her heels clicking on the path, her phone pressed to her ear. She was arguing, as usual, this time about a property deal gone sour. Her voice carried, sharp and unapologetic, drawing annoyed glances from passers-by. But it wasn't her words that would spark outrage, it was what she did next. Frustrated, Karen ended her call with a huff and sat on the bench, tossing her coffee cup onto the grass. Her eyes caught the plaque, and something in her snapped. Maybe it was the stress of her failing business, or the weight of a life that never matched her expectations. Whatever it was, she pulled a key from her purse and began to carve. The screech of metal on wood cut through the park's calm. She etched jagged lines across Daniel's name, her face twisted with defiance, as if the bench itself had wronged her. A jogger, Mia Torres, stopped dead in her tracks. Mia, a nurse who had served alongside medics in war zones, couldn't believe her eyes. "Hey, what are you doing?" she shouted, sprinting toward Karen. But Karen didn't stop. She glared at Mia, her key still gouging the wood, and snapped, "Mind your own business. This park's a mess anyway." Mia's hands trembled as she dialed 911, her voice shaking with anger and disbelief. By the time the police arrived, Karen had stormed off, leaving the bench scarred and the community reeling. Word spread like wildfire. Willow Creek was small, and Daniel Foster was no ordinary figure. He'd grown up there, a kid who'd mowed lawns and coached Little League before enlisting. His death at 25 had left a wound that never fully healed. The bench was more than wood and metal, it was a piece of the town's heart. Social media erupted with photos of the damage, the hashtag Justice for Daniel trending locally. Karen's face, caught on Mia's phone, became the target of fury. But the story was about to take a turn no one expected. Enter Tom Grayson, a grizzled park groundskeeper who'd kept to himself for years. Tom was a Vietnam vet, his face weathered by time and memories he rarely shared. He'd been tending the park's roses when he saw Karen's act but stayed silent, watching from a distance. Tom wasn't one for confrontation, but he knew Daniel's family. His mother, Ellen, still visited the bench every Sunday. When Tom heard Karen's name in the news, something stirred in him. He contacted the police, revealing a detail that changed everything. Karen hadn't acted alone. Tom's security camera, hidden near the rose garden, had caught a second figure, a teenage boy, skulking behind Karen, egging her on. The boy was Ethan, Karen's 16-year-old son, a quiet kid who'd been struggling since his parents' divorce. Ethan had spray-painted the bench's base, adding crude graffiti to his mother's scratches. The footage was grainy, but it was enough. The town's anger, once focused solely on Karen, now split in two directions. How could a mother drag her son into such a shameful act? Karen's arrest was swift. She faced charges of vandalism and destruction of public property. At her hearing, she stood defiant, her lawyer arguing she'd had a moment of weakness. But the judge, a veteran himself, wasn't swayed. "This wasn't a mistake," he said, his voice heavy. "This was a choice to desecrate a hero's memory. 10 days in jail, a $2,000 fine, and community service." The courtroom buzzed, but Karen's face remained unreadable. Ethan, charged as a minor, was sentenced to probation and counseling. The town expected closure, but the real storm was brewing. Ellen Foster, Daniel's mother, attended every day of the trial. She sat in the back, her hands clasped tightly, her eyes fixed on Karen. Ellen was known for her grace, a woman who'd turned her grief into charity work for veterans. But something in her broke when she saw the bench's scars. She didn't speak to the press or join the online outrage. Instead, she requested a meeting with Karen in jail. No one knew why, not even her closest friends. In a small, fluorescent-lit room, Ellen faced Karen. The air was thick with tension. Karen, expecting a lecture, braced herself. But Ellen's words were soft, almost fragile. "I don't hate you," she said. "I want to understand why." Karen, for the first time, faltered. Her bravado crumbled, and she admitted something no one expected. She'd been jealous of Daniel's legacy. Her own life, her failed marriage, her struggling career, her distant son felt like a mockery compared to the hero worshipped by the town. The bench, in her twisted logic, was a symbol of everything she'd never achieved. Ellen listened, her face unreadable. Then she spoke of Daniel, not the hero, but the boy who'd cried when his dog died, who'd dreamed of being a teacher before the war called. "He wasn't perfect," Ellen said, "but he was loved, and you took that from us." Karen's eyes filled with tears, but Ellen didn't comfort her. She left, her silence louder than any accusation. The twist deepened when Ethan's story emerged. In counseling, he confessed he'd goaded his mother, daring her to do something bold to vent her rage. He hadn't meant for it to go so far, but his own anger at his father's absence, at his mother's bitterness, had fueled the moment. Ethan's graffiti wasn't just vandalism. It was a cry for help, one the town hadn't heard until it was too late. Karen served her 10 days, but the sentence didn't end there. The town shunned her. Her real estate business collapsed as clients fled. Ethan, haunted by guilt, withdrew further, refusing to speak to her. The bench was repaired, thanks to a community fundraiser, but the scars lingered in Willow Creek's soul. Ellen, though, took a different path. She began mentoring troubled teens, including Ethan, hoping to heal what Karen had broken. The final blow came on a rainy afternoon, months later. Karen, now a pariah, visited the bench alone. She traced the restored plaque, her fingers trembling. A note was tucked beneath a stone, written in Ellen's neat handwriting. "Forgiveness is not forgetting. It's letting go." Karen broke down, sobbing in the rain, but no one came to her side. The park, once a place of solace, was now a mirror of her regret. Willow Creek moved on, but the story of the bench never faded. It became a cautionary tale, a reminder that one moment of rage could ripple forever. Karen's life unraveled, not because of 10 days in jail, but because she'd lost the one thing the bench represented, a chance to be remembered for something good. Ethan, with Ellen's help, began to find his way, but his mother's shadow loomed large. The town learned to forgive, but never forgot. And so, the bench stood again, polished and proud, bearing Daniel's name. But for Karen, it was a monument to her own bitter, heartbreaking lesson etched not in wood, but in her soul. Nd.